بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصاب أبا عبد الله الحسين. May Allah amplify your and our reward in the morning of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Wurundjeri people who have been oppressed and continue to face discrimination and injustice. O you whose light illuminates, the ones that reach heaven's gates, you are the reason why my eyes cried. More tears than rain fell from the skies. Our holy prophet held you when you were born. Overwhelmed with joy and sorrow, he was torn. In a tight embrace, he cried for you. Zahra was confused, wondered, what did you do? O Noor Qalbi, your so-called crime is inviting others in worship to the sublime. You embody the ultimate sacrifice, receiving extreme injustice to in return gain the justice. You paid a hefty price, and you paid it with your life. They decapitated your holy head, but you preferred it to the walking dead. Hussein, you taught me to die rather than live dying. You taught me to live in truth and to die trying. What words describe the desert sand? While all on your own, you did so stand. Patience was what you advocated, even after witnessing loved ones being annihilated. How many tears can an eye shed? Oh, how much has your heart bled? But Zainab still proclaimed, I see nothing but beauty. To strive for Islam is our duty. Your death gave us life. Thanks to you, we know how to overcome strife. And as hard as they may try, 14 years on, you did not die. Brother Amir will join us with recitation of the Quran. Let's welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I apologize, it's Brother Ali Amir. Let's welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
أحسنت علي. Another salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
We will now be joined by Hajj Laith and Mukhtar for further recitation of the Holy Quran. Let's welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين. إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم درجات عند ربهم ومغفرة ورزق كريم. كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق وإن فريقا من المؤمنين لكارهون. يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين كأنما يساقون إلى الموت وهم ينظرون. وإذ يعدكم الله إحدى الطائفتين أنها لكم وتودون أن ذات الشوكة تكون لكم ويريد الله أن يحق الحق بكلماته ويقطع دابر الكافرين ليحق الحق ويبطل الباطل ولو كره المجرمون وإذ تستغيثون ربكم فاستجاب لكم أني ممدكم ب1000 من الملائكة مردفين وما جعله الله إلا بشرى ولتطمئن به قلوبكم وما النصر إلا من عند الله إن الله عزيز حكيم إذ يغشيكم الناس أمنة منه وينزل عليكم من السماء ماء ليطهركم به ويذهب عنكم رجس الشيطان وليربط على قلوبكم ويثبت به الأقدام إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة إني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب فاضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان ذلك بأنهم شاقوا الله ورسوله ومن يشاقق الله ورسوله فإن الله شديد العقاب ذلكم فذوقوه وأن للكافرين عذاب النار يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا لقيتم الذين كفروا زحفا فلا تولوهم الأدبار ومن يوليهم يومئذ دبره إلا متحرفا لقتال أو متحيزا إلى فئة فقد باء بغضب من الله ومأواه جهنم وبئس المصير فلم تقتلوهم ولكن الله قتلهم وما رميت إذ رميت ولكن الله رمى وليبلي المؤمنين منه بلاء حسنا إن الله سميع عليم ذلكم وأن الله موهن كيد الكافرين وإن تستفتحوا فقد جاءكم الفتح وإن تنتهوا فهو خير لكم وإن تعودوا نعد ولن تغن عنكم فئتكم شيئا ولو كثرت ولن تغن عنكم فئتكم شيئا ولو كثرت وأن الله مع المؤمنين صدق الله العلي العظيم الفاتحة مع الصلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Hajj Laith, for that heartfelt recitation. As Imam Hussein, his family, and his companions left Medina and began their journey towards Karbala, they left behind their homes, their belongings, and their livelihoods. No small feat, but they did not care, for theirs was a noble cause and a holy mission. As we remember and commemorate the journey of Imam Hussein, his brothers, and his companions, brothers and sisters, let us remember all the refugees that are in need around the world, including right here in Australia. Yes, there are refugees in need right here at our doorsteps here in Melbourne. Some in need of clothing and food, but others just in need of human contact. Muslim refugees who would want just a human face, human contact, just to realize that there is somebody out there that cares, a human being that cares that they are alive and wishes to say salam every now and then. Brothers and sisters, if you're interested in more information, please let us know. As Imam Hussein's group journeyed to Karbala, there was one woman who had sacrificed immensely, who was not with them physically, but was with them indeed in more than just spirit. And that was a woman by the name of Lady al-Banin. Lady al-Banin was the wife of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and whom he had selected due to her courage and valor, as he wanted to ensure that his children would be courageous. Ironic that the lion, that is Ali alayhi salam, would be selective about courage, but proof that spouse selection is critical, as it takes two parents to ensure strong children. Lady al-Banin, which in Arabic means mother of sons, bore 4 sons: Uthman, Ja'far, Abdullah, and Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. She instilled in them the purest of morals and the strongest love for the Prophet's household. Just before Imam Hussein left for Medina, she summoned her 4 sons and said to them, "My sons, you must remember that Imam Hussein is your master. If Imam or his sisters or children get injured or hurt while you are still alive, by God, I will never forgive you." Brother Hussein al-Asadi will join us later to remind us of further events in Karbala, but for now, we are joined with some poetry, initially with a small child, Musa al-Askari. Let us welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Hussein's a candle of light, who glows both in day and night, guiding us all to the right. To Karbala we want to fly. Hussein is the Savior. He is sinless, he's the pure. He will guide me, he's the cure. I'll knock always at your door. You are Safinatun Najat. You are اهدنا الصراط. You are so close to my heart, from it you will never depart. I will hold on to your rope, for you are my only hope. Without you I'll never cope. Guide me to the narrow road. Let us board Hussein's ship. Let us head for the best trip. Guaranteed you'll never slip. Those left behind will never win. I'm ready to go through much pain. Let them all call me insane. As long as I'm with Hussein, I'm following Allah's lane. On the eve of Ashura, the whole world is in azar for a man who is so great, for our master, the Hussein.
We will next be joined by Hajj Ibrahim al-Zubaydi. Let us welcome him with Salah ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
For the hastening of the return of our Imam, please recite the Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, dear respected brothers and sisters. Inshallah, my poem is dedicated to Abi Fadl al-Abbas, as many cultures do celebrate or to commemorate, his martyrdom on this night. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. Born into the world, he cried Tawheed, a cry that led the enemy's ears to bleed. His father lowered his head, looked at the child's hands. Tears filled his father lowered his head, looked at the child's hands. He sees in his palms Allah's plans. He embraced the child's wrists with mercy and grace. Tears filled the child's palms and the father's face. A soft murmur from the mother, is there something wrong? Ya Haydar, I know you to be strong. What did you see in his hands that humbled your heart? O mother of Abbas, from where do I start? There will be a time where I will fight the enemies of my Lord. And Abbas will be there raising his sword, defending Tawheed, for the deen willing to bleed. I will teach him strength, mercy, compassion and love, so he may use these qualities to serve the Lord above. But when I am nearing my death, with my last breath, I will give him a trust about something many a times we've discussed. Upon my request, Zainab's eyes will give birth to tears, and Abbas will beat his chest, saying, "Sister, have no fears, I am here." Then he turns to give an oath to his father that he will protect Zainab as long as his heart is beating, from her calls never retreating. If need be, he will postpone death's meeting. Labbaik ya Zainab, his soul repeating. And I will leave this world knowing that there is no doubt in what Abbas has promised me about. I will tell Fatima and Rasulullah about something which I've learned. About Zainab and Hussein, they should not be concerned. Abbas will protect them in my stead. Never will he let their clothes be stained with red. Ya Haydar, I ask then, why do you cry? Abbas's hands are holding your tears. What is it that brings sorrow to your eye? As long as Abbas is there, have no fears. O mother of the sons, there will be a time when Hussein calls upon Abbas for water, because thirst has afflicted my household and my daughter. Baby Abbas looked at Haydar when hearing of what Hussein will request, as if saying, "O father, do not worry, the love for Zainab is deep in my chest. And until they are satisfied with water, I will not rest, even if the sun rises from the west." Haydar kisses Abbas's hands once more and tells the story of what happens during the war. Abbas will hear Zainab calling. Abbas will hear Zainab calling, and he runs to her without stalling, remembering that Zainab is his father's trust. He looks at her and tells her, "O love of my heart, I am still in my youth. By the time the sun has set, I will still be here defending you and the truth, and this war is something you will forget. I'm going to get the water for Sukaina, for you and the others. The children are thirsty and have thirsty mothers." So Abbas goes to the battlefield once more, a warrior never seen in anyone's dreams. A reminder of what Ali was like before, yet Ali is in Karbala, or so it seems. Abbas reaches the river. Abbas reaches the river, water flows through his fingers. Blessings from the sustainer, the giver. Under the heat of the sun, the cool water makes his soul shiver. He looks into the water, he is still. He is still, yet his reflection begins to speak. Drink. Drink to regain your strength, you are weak. Abbas disrupts this image as he picks up water with his hand. He brings it close to his lips. Yet in the water he sees another image, Haydar on his deathbed. "My son Abbas," Haydar says, "remember our trust. Remember your trust, remember what you said. That you will protect our hijab, let them not touch a thread. You are the reason they can raise their head. You have to get back to the camp. You have to get back to the camp. Do not let your desires mislead. Of these words you must take heed. My son, proceed and fulfill the trust that we agreed. For I told Fatima of your promise, that you guaranteed that the Ahlul Bayt will not bleed, that you, Abbas, are all they need." Zainab's voice now echoes in the winds. "Abbas, come back to me. The state of my heart you should see. If I lose you, where would I be? Oh brother, come back to me." Abbas relaxes his fingers, letting the water slip. Abbas then collects the water in a bag and begins riding towards the camp of Hussein, the love for Zainab pumping through his veins. O mother of sons, Hussein will see Abbas in the distance. It brings him delight, knowing that with Abbas in the water they may make it through the night. But within moments Hussein heard a sigh. "Salamu alayka ya Hussein." "Come to my aid, O brother," Abbas cried. Hussein ran to Abbas. "My back is now broken," he declared. Hussein knew of Abbas's trust. For his death he was unprepared. Abbas's last words to Hussein was, "Tell our father that I tried. Forgive me, Zainab. Forgive me, father." With his last breath he sighed. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Thank you, Haji Ibrahim. Absolutely heart-wrenching. We now join Brother Hussein al-Asadi for recollections of the day of Ashura. We welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله. غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، روحي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء، وقل الفداء يا مسلوب العمامة والرداء. عبست وجوه القوم خوف الموت. عبست، تعرف شنو معنى كلمة عبست أو أعبس؟ يعني الإنسان من يتضايق أو يخاف من فد شيء كشر وجهه، هذا معناه عبس. القوم خايفين، معركة، حرب، صف ناس سيوف رماح، وفئة قليلة واقفين، والعباس ضاحك متبسم. ما هي إلا ساعة. أحد أنصار الحسين يقول: رأيناه يضحك، رأينا أبا الفضل يضحك. قلنا: مولاي سيدي أبا الفضل تضحك؟ أوقت ضحك هذا؟ قال: ما هي إلا ساعة، ساعة نعطف على القوم فنكون في عليين، ليش ما أضحك؟ عبست وجوه القوم خوف الموت، والعباس فيهم ضاحك متبسم، قلب اليمين على الشمال وغاص في الأوساط، قلب اليمين على الشمال وغاص في الأوساط، يحصد بالرؤوس ويحطم، بطل تورث من أبيه شجاعة، فيها رؤوس بني الضلالة تحطم، عرف المواعظ لا تفيد بمعشر، ما ينفع وياهم الوعظ، ما ينفع وياهم الكلام، ما ينفع وياهم الخطاب. شوف السوى أبو فاضل. عرف المواعظ لا تفيد بمعشر، صموا عن النبأ العظيم كما عموا، فانصاع يخطب بالجماجم والكلا. هاي خطبة العباس بالجماجم والكلا. فانصاع يخطب بالجماجم والكلا، فالسيف ينثر والمثقف ينضم، فالسيف ينثر والمثقف ينضم. كلامنا احنا كعرب، كلامنا اللي نتكلم به العادي هذا نقول له نثرا، نثر كلام عادي. اما الشعر فما نظم، فعندنا نوعين، عندنا واحد شعر والثاني نثر اللي هو الكلام العادي. اما الشعر فيكون موزون على قافية، الى وزن خاص وقافية خاصة، فهذا يكون. فهنا شاعر شو يقول؟ فالسيف ينشر والمثقف ينضم. والسيف كل احنا نعرف شنو هو السيف، لكن المثقف هو الرمح العدل المستقيم، هذا العدل يكون. هذا معنى مثقف، انسان معتد. لما تقول انسان مثقف، فلان مثقف، يعني انسان معتدل. ترى وحقك الثقافة مو شخص يقرأ له مليون كتاب وبالتالي كل شيء ما تفيده. هاي الاعتدال هو هذا الثقافة باللغة العربية. الثقافة هي الاعتدال. فإذا كان أنا فلان إلى حق علي وأنا أظل أماري وأكابر وما أنطي حقه مني، هذه مو ثقافة. حتى لو قارئ مليون كتاب، هاي مو ثقافة. فانصاع يخطب بالجماجم والكلا، فالسيف ينشر والمثقف ينضم، نادى وقد ملأ البوادي صيحتين. هذا الحسين ينادي، نادى وقد ملأ البوادي صيحتين، صم الصخور لهولها تتألم. أخي من يحمي بنات محمد، أخي من يحمي بنات محمد، إن صرن يسترحمن من لا يرحم. في بداية المجلس ذكروني بأم البنين، بس أقرأ لها كم بيت بس الأم البنين. كانت لها جارة، هاي قصة يذكرونها عن أم البنين وأبيات تاريخية هاي موجودة. كانت لها جارة تعرف أم البنين. أم البنين اسمها فاطمة أيضا، مثل أم الحسين فاطمة. فأم البنين سموها أم البنين لأن عندها 4 أولاد، والأولاد بالعربية هم يطلقون عليهم البنين، يعني الأولاد، فسموها أم البنين. كانت لها جارة اعتادت على أن تناديها أم البنين أم البنين أم البنين، إلى أن جاء يوم عاشوراء وفقدت أولادها كلهم في ذلك اليوم. جاءت هذه الجارة في أحد الأيام نادتها يا أم البنين، قالت لا تدعوني ويك أم البنين. ليش ما تصيح لك بأم البنين؟ هذا اسمك سيدتي. لا تدعوني ويك أم البنين، تذكريني باليوث العرين. 4 مثل نسور الظبا، 4 مثل نسور الربا، قد عانقوا البيض وسمر الضبا، ما جاوزوا في العمر دور الصبا. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون. الآية الكريمة تقول وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. أقرأ لك آية من سورة الأعراف الجزء 9. كلنا نعرف قصة السحرة مع نبي الله موسى. جمعوا السحرة، ألقوا عصيهم وحبالهم، وألقى موسى فهي التقفت ما رموا. سووا السحرة؟ آمنوا سووا، شافوا. هذا إعجاز إلهي مو سحر. مستحيل إنه إنسان يسوي هاي العملية السحرية. السحر هو خداع للعين، كانوا يستخدمونه وما زال يستخدمونه، خداع للعين، يخدع عينك به. لكن معجزة نبي الله موسى كانت حقيقية، كانت معجزة، ولذلك آمن به السحرة. خروا سجدا فقال فرعون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لأقطعن أيديكم وأرجلكم من خلاف ثم لأصلبنكم أجمعين قالوا إنا إلى ربنا منقلبون. عقاب شديد يا أخي، شديد العقاب هذا. أقطعن أيديكم وأرجلكم من خلاف ثم أصلبنكم. يصلبهم ورا ما يقطع أيديهم وأرجلهم. خافوا؟ لا، معجزة إلهية قدامنا، عقيدة صارت. قالوا إنا إلى ربنا منقلبون وما تنقم منا إلا أن آمنا بآيات ربنا لما جاءتنا ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مع المسلمين. لحظة واحدة الإنسان يتغير. ساحر، كان ساحر، قرآن يعبر، كان ساحر هذا الإنسان. مجموعة من السحرة لحظة غيرتهم، صاروا مؤمنين. ما نترك هذا النهج، احنا آمنا برب موسى، سوي اللي يعجبك. فما بالك بمن ولد في بيت علي عليه السلام وتربى على يديه ورآه وسمعه. هذا تربية علي ابن أبي طالب عليه السلام العباس. تتوقع إنه يخاف من الجموع؟ مستحيل. لا، شاهد أمامنا هنا الآية، شافوا المعجزة آمنوا بيها لحظات وانقلبوا خلاص بعد احنا وياك. مات من الدنيا، انقطاع تام مع الله، صار انقطاع تام. ما يردون الدنيا لأن عرفوا أن الدنيا دار فناء، كل شيء ما تسوي. وإلى أين أنت تريد تعيش بهالدنيا؟ كم سنة؟ 60 70 80 روح 100 وبعدين تعالي جو القاع احنا نصير. فموقف، شوف أنصار الحسين خلدهم التاريخ. صحيح تركوا على رمضاء كربلاء 3 أيام، حاولوا أن يهينوهم. أنتم قتلتوا الحسين، قتلتوا الحسين، قطعتوا رأسه، تسلبون ثيابه. ليش؟ ليش تسلبون ثيابه؟ أنا اليوم أريد أقرأ لك مصيبة إن شاء الله كان يقرأها الشيخ جاسم الطورجاوي الله يطول عمره، إن شاء الله ما أطول عليكم. فيا أخي الإنسان مواقف. أنصار الحسين بقوا مع الحسين، حاولوا الأعداء أن يهينوا أنصار الحسين ولكنهم خلدوا، جردوهم حتى من ثيابهم، داسوا عليهم بالخيل. لكن شوف هسه التاريخ وين؟ شوف اللي ظلم الحسين وأنصار الحسين أجلكم الله في مزابل التاريخ. العالم كله يرى. وشوف أنصار الحسين والحسين وثورته بحروف من ذهب نقشت، اللي رايح الكربلاء إذا شايف أنصار الحسين. أما أبي الفضل العباس مقام آخر، بحروف من ذهب نقشها التاريخ. هم أصلا ما كانوا يردون الذهب، يردون هناك عند لقاء الله. هذا الموقف اللي يردونه. فإحنا من هذا المواقف، من هذا موقف واحد لو نتعلم، موقف واحد لو نتعلم من هاي المواقف يكفينا. فما بالك وإحنا عندنا مدرسة واسعة من الأئمة ومن العلم نقدر نتعلم منها ونتخرج منها. شوف الثورة الحسينية ايش خرجت وشنطت. أقول لك انقطاع تام مع الله، انقطاع تام. يقطعون يمينه، والله إن قطعتم يميني إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني. انتهت. ما يحس بأعضاء مقطعة أو يحس أنا ما أدري، لكن الانقطاع مع الله يريد. هاي انتهت المسألة إلهية، ما يريد ما يرجع. إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني، عن الإمام الصادق يقيني، نفس صدق النبي الصادق الأمين. يقطعون شماله، يقول والله إن قطعتم شمالي. يرجع يضربون بالنبال بالسهام من بعيد من قريب. أذكر لك أبيات لأحد الشعراء إيهاب المالكي، يقول أحبك يا أبو فاضل موقف وروح، أحبيك الجروح ترفض تهيد، أحب ثنية ركبتك وانت على الماي، أحب من قال لك اشرب قلت له ما أريد، أحب من قال لك اشرب قلت له ما أريد، أحب وقفة ضميرك والسهم جاي، أحب ذاك التزامك بالمواعيد. يصير عندنا هيك احنا التزام بالمواعيد؟ أحب وقفة ضميرك والسهم جاي، أحب ذاك التزامك بالمواعيد. قال لك اشرب الماي، قال له ما أريد. شنو الماي؟ إيثار. يؤثر الإمام الحسين على نفسه. أحب من قال لك اشرب قلت له ما أريد. إيش قال لي الماي؟ أنا شلون أشرب وأخوي حسين عطشان أو سكنة والحرام وأطفال رضعان، موقف واحد لزينب تركت أخوها ذهبت في سبيها إلى الشام، تقول له أخويا العمر بعدك لا طالت أيام، أنا الشام هد حيلي ودعاني الليل ما نام، علي يزيد الرجس طبيت وراسك كان قدامه، يضرب راسك قبال وهاجدونك دلالي، صحت لا تضرب الوالي لا تضرب الوالي، عسى انشلت يمينك ليش تضرب راس والينا. قل اخويا طبينا للديوان والناس متجمعة من كل الأجناس، اي والله يهود ونصارى وكفر ورجاس، من شاهدان مهبط الراس صاحوا يا زينب وين عباس، اي صاحوا يا زينب وين عباس. رحم الله الضائعات بعدك يا أبا الفضل. إلهي بالحسين الوجيه وجده وأبيه وأمه وأخيه والتسعة المعصومين من بنيه فرج عنا يا الله، لا تخرجنا من هذه الدنيا حتى ترضى عنا. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات المؤسسين الحاضرين شيعة أمير المؤمنين في كل بقاع الأرض، رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت.
Ahsan, thank you very much for that reminder. We will now have a 5-minute break for refreshments. Please remain seated and the refreshments will come to you. We will recommence shortly.
Never. What is it? That was my home.
So you're saying your handwriting
I left or right. Left or right.
Okay,
Okay, good one. You want to eat?
Yeah, I think.
Yes. You love eating.
Is everybody done?
Yes.
You're on to that.
ماما ماما ما خافش
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. الثاني على حب الزهراء. الله. الثالثة على حب الحسين. The characteristics of al-Banin's sons are a reflection of her own greatness. Their honesty, loyalty, and devotion to Imam Hussein are all due to her. Ironically, Lady al-Banin was from the same clan as Shimr, one of the killers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And during the events that unfolded in Karbala, Shimr stood facing the companions of Imam Hussein and called out in a loud voice, "Where are the sons of our sister?" Hearing this, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Abdullah, Ja'far, and Uthman came out and asked what he desired. Shimr replied, "O sons of my sister, you are guaranteed security." They replied, "Woe be upon you and your security. You offer us security while the son of the Prophet is devoid of it?" And Abbas then called out in a loud voice, "May your hands be amputated. What an evil security you have brought for us. O enemy of God, do you desire that we should betray our brother and master, Imam Hussein, and obey the accursed sons of accursed fathers?" Up next is another of our young leaders, Hajja Kawthar al-Tamimi, to discuss with us, interestingly, the bystander effect. Let us welcome her with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, my theme for this short talk will be helping others and why Imam Hussein ended up standing alone on the plains of Karbala asking, هل من ناصر ينصرني? Now, to illustrate and to really examine this topic, I want to go back to an event on March 13th, 1964. Catherine Genovese had just gotten off work and she was walking to her apartment. It was 3 a.m. at night. She was parked about 30 meters from where she lived. And she felt someone walking behind her. There was a man walking behind her, sorry. So she was rushing. She was trying to get to the main door of her apartment block. He caught up with her. He stabbed her in the back twice. And she called out for help. Oh my God, he stabbed me, help me. No one responded. No one helped. The man got scared, so he left. But over the next 35 minutes, he came back 3 times for her. He assaulted her. And eventually she died. She was killed. Lights were switching on in the apartment block, but no one called the police. Now when this event happened, it was just going to be normal homicide and it was going to go away, but it was reported in the media as 37 people heard of this murder and no one helped. And social psychologists in the 1960s started to think, why did this happen? Is it the big city? Does no one care anymore about each other? Is it apathy, not caring? Or is it something else? So what happened was that Darley and Latané, two researchers, in 1968, they devised this study where they were trying to determine the effect of having other people around when you're in need. What was the effect of having a bystander? What did that have on you as a person getting the help you needed? So one of the studies was that they had certain people who were involved in a study. They were sitting in a cubicle with their microphones and their headphones on, and all of a sudden smoke started coming into this room. And they had to, they were actually checking whether the people would report that there was smoke coming in, that they needed help. The other study was what they would react if they heard a woman falling off a ladder and it seemed like she had injured herself, whether anyone would get up, would break the experiment and would get out and say, actually, I think someone needs help here. And the third experiment that they did was to see whether the participants would respond to what sounded like another student experiencing an epileptic seizure. Now, over the years, many studies have been done that replicated the same findings of this initial study in 1968. And the results show that the percentage of people helping when in groups was significantly lower than the percentage of people helping when they were alone. This is as much as 90% of people helped more when they were just alone than if they were in groups. The second finding was that it took people in groups a lot longer to help compared to when they were alone. So that famous saying, safety in numbers, isn't true. You're not safer when you're in a large group of people. So this is what the bystander effect is. People are less likely to help in an emergency when they are with others than when they are alone. The greater the number, the less likely it is that anyone will help. Now we know what the effect is, and that it's real and that it happens. It's been studied and it's been proven. Now what does this have to do with Karbala, with Imam Hussein? Why did Imam Hussein end up with so few people on the plains of Karbala? Why did everyone ignore his call for help? What has always struck me the most with Imam Hussein is that it really happened very soon after the passing of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to remember that it was a mere 50 years after the passing of the Prophet. Some people in this room, if you had been living in the time of the Prophet, you would have been young enough to see the Prophet and to see how he prolonged his sujood when Imam Hussein and Imam Hassan were on his back playing. You would have heard him say, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein Sayyiday Shababi Ahli Jannah. Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein are the chiefs of the youth of paradise. You would have heard him say, Hussein minni wa ana minhu, ahabba Allah man ahabba. Al-Hussein is from me and I am from Al-Hussein. Allah loves whoever loves Al-Hussein. So how can people forget so quickly? How can they just turn their backs and just ignore his call? Now from the research, it shows that there are two explanations for the bystander effect. There's something that's called the pluralistic ignorance, which means that if you're in a group and no one is paying attention to someone who's in need, you think, oh, it must just be me. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the situation. Maybe I don't understand here what's going on. You don't want to break outside of the group and be the one who steps out and helps. So it's the error of assuming that no one in the group perceives things as you do. An example of this was Hugo Alfredo in April 2010. This was recorded and spread as well online, where he came to the aid of a woman who was being robbed. As a result, he got stabbed and he was left on just a sidewalk. And on the video, you can see as many as 25 people walking past him, just like looking. Some people even took pictures and just kept walking. No one called the police, no one checked on him, no one even talked to him. And as a result, he died as well. So none of them tried to actually help. Now, could this have been a contributing factor in the tragedy of Karbala? I thought about this and I thought that it's not just that people were misinterpreting the situation. It was quite clear that Yazid wasn't really the ideal Muslim, like ideal, far from it. So people knew obviously that he wasn't good, that Imam Hussein's character was, was just perfect, mashallah, and that, he was fighting on the right side. And as he was leaving Mecca as well, he was warned that, this journey that you're going on, it's dangerous. His cousin warned him as well, Abdullah ibn Abbas, you might be killed and the people of Iraq are unreliable. So people knew of the danger and people knew that he was going for a specific, purpose to help others. So why didn't they join him in that fight? This leads me to the other explanation of this bystander effect, which is diffusion of responsibility. The presence of others makes you feel like you're less responsible for the outcome. So let's say if you're walking in a group and you see someone who's in need, you think, oh, there are so many other people. Surely there's someone who's more qualified than me, or surely someone else will help him. Maybe people on that sidewalk were thinking the same thing. Someone else must have checked. This is maybe too dangerous for me. There's so many excuses. So in 2008, 2 people actually who were in an emergency ward also died because they were left and no one went and thought, okay, maybe it's my responsibility to check on this person. One person was waiting for over 24 hours in an emergency ward and eventually collapsed on the floor, and for an hour stayed on the floor and was ignored by 2 security guards and by other patients and was left to die. So whose responsibility is it? Is it the hospital's responsibility? Is it the doctor's responsibility? Or is it every single person's responsibility who sees that maybe I should go and check? Maybe I should be the person who helps. Now, on the way to Karbala, the Imam stopped at approximately 14 places, 14 opportunities for people there to come and join him and help him. Not many did, but notable exceptions are, of course, Wahab ibn Abdullah al-Kalbi, the newlywed, who Hajj Ahmed mentioned in one of his talks earlier, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, who joined him as well, and of course his childhood friend Habib ibn al-Mudahab. So there were people who were brave enough to respond to Imam Hussein's call. Now, of the man as well who has been mentioned in one of the lectures earlier, who was advised by the Imam to go far, far away, as the Imam explained to him, indeed, whoever hears us and does not help us will go to hell. Now, the reasoning of this man who decided not to help Imam al-Hussein really caught my eye and relates to what I'm going to tell you. I swear by God, I left Kufa only because of what I saw, that people were leaving to fight against him, and him being Imam Hussein. And I knew that he's going to be killed and I'm not going to help him. That is why I left Kufa, so that I would be safe. I do not want to see him and I do not want him to see me. Now this really reflects what one of the unidentified neighbors in Catherine Geneviese's murder also stated in the police report. He said, or she said, I didn't want to get involved. People just don't want to be involved, don't want to be to blame or to step up. Now, obviously, Imam Hussein has actually warned us about this as well in one hadith. When other people turn to you in need, consider it a favor of Allah. Do not be worried of this favor, or it will move on to someone else. It's a privilege to be in a situation where your help might be needed. And we should try and step up to the plate. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran as well, in Ayah 195 in Surah Al-Baqarah says, وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Do good to others. Surely Allah loves those who do good to others. Now in conclusion, the bystander effects in Karbala. Why did I decide to talk about this? Not only so we can understand history better and why there weren't more people with Imam al-Hussein, but studies have also shown that if you are notified of the bystander effect, if you know that something like this exists, your chances of actually being an active helper when the need arises increases as well, inshallah. So the call of Imam Hussein, like Dr. Yasser was saying yesterday, is still being called today. And we have a role to play in responding to that call by being exemplary Muslims, inshallah, and being for the Ahlul Bayt. The call is to the truth without your tongue, but through your actions, inshallah. So next time an opportunity comes up to help, where you're needed somewhere, or you might, any situation where you think that, okay, someone needs my help, but maybe it's not me, maybe someone else will do this, just remember Imam Hussein's call. هل من ناصر ينصرني? And if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? صلوا على محمد.
Thank you, Hajj Kawthar, for that enlightening talk, and may Allah safeguard us from the effects of the bystander. When the news reached of the heartbreaking events of Karbala to Lady al-Banin, she did not ask about the fate of her 4 sons, but instead she asked, tell me about Hussein. And when she received the news about Imam Hussein alayhi salam's martyrdom, she said, all of the arteries of my heart are torn. May all of my children and whatever that exists under this azure heaven be sacrificed for the sake of Imam Hussein. We are very lucky to be joined by our distinguished speaker today, Hajja Sabah Hakim, for our main talk, Achieving Success, Lessons from Lady Zainab. Let us welcome her with a loud salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا أبا القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Peace and blessings upon you, my beloved Imam Hussein, and upon the pure souls that were with you in Karbala. Peace and blessings upon you, Lady Zainab, العقيلة العالمة الكاملة الفاضلة الصديقة الصغرى. Today's talk is going to be about success through the lessons of Lady Zainab alayhi salam. And I think this is an important topic because it highlights what we all strive towards. And basically we all have in this room one goal, and the goal is to achieve heaven, inshallah, on the Day of Judgment. And in Surah Al-Fajr, coincidentally the surah that I'm selecting today, with which Brother Ali read today, earlier on, Surah Al-Fajr, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya, fadkhuli fi ibadi, wadkhuli jannati. O reassured soul, mutma'inna. I want to have that reassured soul on the day of judgment. O reassured soul, return to your Lord, well pleased and he pleased with you. That duality of being pleased with yourself, with everything that you receive, with your circumstance, and then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more importantly, being pleased with you. It is such an important achievement and very difficult one, because it's not just about the end, it's about now. It's about the moment. It's about where we are today. And we all want to achieve that, but sometimes we don't actually believe that we are worthy of achieving that goal. We want it, we think we deserve it, but do we really believe that we are worth achieving that goal? When we talk about success, there are so many barriers to it today. Why aren't we successful or succeeding in one aspect of our life? We might be successful in other aspects, but there is always something that you want to achieve, but you don't feel like you're there just yet. What is it that stops in our way? And we talked a lot about this, and today also by Sister Kauthar mentioning a few of the reasons why sometimes we feel like a failure. We feel that we're really not there. And one of the main aspects of it, and I think it links back to what Sister Kauthar was saying, is ego. And this is something that Brother Ahmed mentioned earlier on. Ego is a deceiving thing because it comes through very different ways and feelings, and we think we know it in other people. It's so easy to see the ego in Shaitan in the example that Brother Ahmed mentioned. We can see how jealous he was. Jealousy is one of the feelings that stems from ego. And in the example that Sister Kauthar was mentioning about, not taking that step, feeling that maybe somebody else can do it, it also stems from our feeling of not being up to that task. We put ourselves down. We don't have that sense of self-worth to achieve that goal. And it also comes back to the ego, because we're so afraid to fail, we put this protective wall against us. We don't get involved. We don't open up our hearts to situations. We don't want to show vulnerability. And I'll give you examples of where the ego is, but sometimes we don't want to acknowledge it. And I'm talking about myself first. So one of the examples is, for example, your friend, you're sitting in the Husseiniya, you've got a friend somewhere in a corner in the Husseiniya, and you look at her and you smile, and she doesn't smile back. She just has this sort of like phased out look as if she's ignoring you. And you start to spin the story in your head. Oh my God, why is she doing this? What's wrong with her? Oh, maybe it's because, my son got married last week and, she's jealous because I didn't invite her. And it just keeps on, you building that story in your head. And everything she does afterwards is within the context of that story. Whatever she does, it's because of this. I know why she's doing it, it's because of this. You have another situation where, by the way, that particular approach of spinning stories, that is described beautifully in the Quran in Surah Al-Munafiqun. When he describes Al-Munafiqun, يَحْسَبُونَ كُلَّ صَيْحَةٍ عَلَيْهِمْ. They think that every shout is against them, as if the whole world revolves around them. We've been in that situation. My teacher gave me that mark because she hates me. She's got something against me. When you have that fight with your husband or your wife or your sister or your brother, in your head, the conversation, the story that's happening, it's all his fault. I am not going to back down. This is my right. I'm going to wait for him to come to me to apologize because it's all his fault. You know, when Mom asks us to do the dishes, somehow the dishes is such a big deal. We all have dishwashers, people. It's not that difficult. It's always an issue. Did you put the dishes in the dishwasher? Did you take them out of the dishwasher? And in a situation where you haven't put the dishes there, you haven't done that for 10 days straight, you've been delaying, you've been, texting on the mobile, Mom gets upset on the 10th day and she says you're grounded for a week. And you give Mom the look. You know the look that I'm talking about? It's the look of, I hate you. I can't believe you're doing this to me. Look. That you are not so fair. Look. You don't do that to my brother. Look. These feelings that stem from our sort of the walls that we put forward, the ego, the call that I deserve better. This is so unfair. This creates a disabling atmosphere. We don't live up to our responsibility. We don't stop and think, how can I make this better? We wallow and complain and, drain ourselves. We text about it. My mom did this to me. I can't believe I'm grounded for a week. We complain and talk about it, and this negative talk just, churns, especially, I think, for ladies, and I'm one of them, so I can say that. We keep saying and doing things that create that negative perception in our mind. I want to imagine myself in the abaya of Lady Zainab, and I'm on the plains of Karbala. What would I be thinking? I always do that, Women do things like that. We imagine ourselves in situations. We cry about people because we killed them in our imagination. They all died in a car accident, and then. So I'm going to imagine myself in that situation. And Imam Hussein, the one whom when Imam Hussein was 3 years old, his sister Zainab was born. They had a very close age gap between them, and they were very close together. She used to be unsettled as a baby, and sometimes the only way to calm her down was to put her on his little lap, and she would look at his face. That gave her comfort, and she continued to do that all her life. When he was around and it was prayer time, she would look at his beautiful face, and she would sense the spirituality and the faith, and then she would go to pray. So imagine that kind of relationship. And Lady Zainab puts that in perspective. She shows us the human face. We often make her out, in our mind, someone who's Hercules, yeah? Someone who's way beyond our very human feelings. But she does feel the pain most immensely. Her heart is wrenched. She cries tears. She kisses Hussein's neck. She thinks about that moment, and she imagines in her mind that these are the last moments. And imagine the moment when he asks her to go and bring for him tattered and torn clothing to cover his body, because he's worried that when he dies, they will come and try to take his clothes away from him. So he's trying to protect his dignity. So he says, give me something that's torn so I may cover myself with. Maybe they will leave my dignity. Imagine you bringing that for your brother, knowing that in a few moments he will be gone. And she says it. She says, if only we could all die. If only I could be in your place. If that were me, I'd probably be thinking, I'm thinking back when I'm in my 20s, long time ago, just finished law school, and a feminist, of course, and I would be saying, well, there are 73 people, men, in our group, and 4,000 in Yazid's group, and it is crazy.
that I'm sitting in a tent waiting for you to die. I want to be there. I want to grab a sword and be by your side. You know, there are boys who are 14, 13 years old who can't even carry a sword, and they are fighting by your side. I can do this too. And Lady Zainab says in a few words, she says, if you were to allow me to fight by your side, I would do it, but I know you don't. So I offer my boys. She didn't kick her heels in. That's what we do. We can so imagine the conversation today. What would we do as women? And I'm talking to the sisters because I am one of you, so I understand the trials and the struggles that we go through. Lady Zainab knew her place very well. She knew her message, and it was a tough one. It was very, very hard, but she didn't let that ego get in the way. She understood that the situation was beyond her control. And this is made very clear when she walks into the court of Ibn Ziyad and he gloats about the death, about the killing of her family member. And he says to her, your family members, Hussein's false claims have come to zero, to nil. That he is gloating about the victory that Hussein's claim to the imama was not justified, and as a result, they are the winners. What does she answer him in that moment? He's trying to get that ego out. He's trying to make her angry, to feel like this is not a fair situation. But her response was, it was Allah's wish that they should be martyred. That is submission. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the first aspect of how we deal with these feelings that rise in our head, because that little voice that tells us stories about why something is unfair, or why the situation is this way, or why is this person doing that to me, is always going to be there. We know that. We need to train ourselves to deal with it. And one of the first things that Lady Zainab teaches us is to submit to Allah's will. She actually stands up and takes control from Ibn Ziyad. She takes it from his hand. You have no power over me because this is Allah's will. She also threatens him. Imagine that. She is in one of the worst situations that you could ever be in. She's tired, she's exhausted, she's gone through a lot, she has just lost her loved ones. They have looted the tents, they have treated her badly, she has lost everything that she loves, and there in front of Ibn Ziyad, she threatens him. A woman. She says to him, beware of the day of reckoning. She empowers herself. The second thing that we learn is to stop the complaining, and I talked about that earlier. There is a place, I visited Iraq a couple of years ago for the first time in 35 years. It was a very emotional visit, and in Karbala, it was the Arba'in. It was crazy. It was like Yom al-Qiyamah. And as people were jostling, we reached a place called the Talla Zainabiyya, Maqam Zainab alayhi salam. You might be familiar with that. And this is where Lady Zainab stood and saw her brother being martyred. This is the point where it happened. And what she does is she turns around towards Medina, to where her grandfather, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is buried. And this is what she says. She has a conversation with the Prophet. She says, Ya Muhammadah. And she says it with power and force. Ya Muhammadah. Salla alayka maliku as-sama. O Muhammad, may the King of the heavens bless you and pray upon you. هذا حسين مرمل بالدماء. This is Hussein. He is stained with his blood. And she continues to narrate the story to the Prophet. She is having a conversation to remind her, to refocus her on what's important. The message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And the third thing that is really important in trying to curb that voice in our head. So we had submission, knowing that the control lies in the hands of Allah. So the fact that you didn't get the promotion or the fact that you didn't get the employment is not because you're wearing the hijab. It's because Allah destined that you didn't get it, because if He wanted to, you would get it. And the second thing is stopping the complaining, that negative energy that surrounds us. You know, you're reminding yourself of bad things and taking away your power from yourself. You're not empowering yourself. So refocusing your purpose, your responsibility. And the third one is taking action. It's not enough to submit by not doing anything, and it's not enough to stop complaining. You actually have to put the dishes in the dishwasher. That's what you have to do. You have to transfer those feelings that are underlying the ego, the jealousy, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment by others. Sometimes we don't do something because we're afraid to be judged. And change that into a strength by doing something that you're afraid to do, challenging yourself towards it. Because it's really easier to give up. You know, Lady Zainab was in that position when she was traveling from Damascus to Kufa and then from Kufa to Medina. On her way back, she stopped at Karbala and she stopped at the grave of her brother, Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And she wanted to stay there. She had nothing left. Her back was bent, her hair was gray. She has seen so much. That journey, we don't talk about that journey so much. From Kufa to Damascus, it took about 28 days of travel with camels, with humiliation, and with pain of separation, with pain of the tragedy of what happened. She didn't want to go to Medina. Her heart wanted to stay there. This is what her heart wanted to do, but she went back to Medina because it was her job to remind people of what happened to Imam Hussein. Sometimes we just have to bite the bullet and do things we don't like to do. You know, they talk a lot about being happy with what you do. You gotta be happy with what you do. You know, you get a job that you're happy with. You know, if you're not happy with your husband, leave him. But it's not about happiness. This is a temporary place for us. It's a transit. You know, when you stop in Dubai before you go to Iraq, this is a transit. And we need to focus on what's important, our responsibility. I'll tell you a little story about my brother Samar. Some of you know him. When his daughter, Yasemin, was 2 years old, my niece, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And this was such a shock to the whole family because we had never had that experience. And amidst the whole shock and fear of what was going on, my brother Samar called his boss, he's the owner of a pharmacy. My brother worked as a pharmacist manager in a pharmacy in Doncaster East. And he called the boss and he said to him, my daughter is sick. I've just been told that she's got leukemia. I need some time off to deal with this and make sure she's okay. So the boss gives him the time off. Actually, what he does, he immediately terminates the contract with my brother. So there he is in hospital. I'm with him, and I remember this vividly. We are in front of the children's ward at Monash Medical Center, at Monash Hospital, in front of the elevators that have been there before. And we're sitting on the ground, me and him next to each other, facing the elevators, and leaning on the wall, and there is nothing I can say to him. I don't know what to say. He can't say anything. He's just lost his job. His daughter has been diagnosed with leukemia. He's got a mortgage. Everything is in a mess. And all I want to do is run away from this. I want to go back home and I'm going to pretend that this was all a nightmare, that everything was okay. And I was so afraid for him. And then after a couple of days, I started talking to him about, going to the workplace relations tribunal, going to the Equal Opportunity Commission, doing this, doing that. And he said, I want to wait. And I was angry. I was so angry. How could anybody be devoid of empathy in these situations? A few days later, we had a family meeting, and he told me, Sabah, I have decided that I am never going to work for anybody again. He took a risk. He opened up his own business called Pharmacy SOS, and he worked from home, and he managed to attend every single medical appointment for his daughter and be there for the family and have flexible hours. And he had such tawfiq, he paid off the mortgage, and he was able last year to go with his family to Iran, to stay there for a few years, to study, while his business here in Melbourne supported him. I am so amazed by this sense of submission. If he hadn't been kicked out of that job, he would not have taken that risk. He turned the situation and said to himself, what can I do here? What is in my hand? What is my responsibility right now? What are the options? When Lady Zainab with the other women, along with Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhim salam, were taken from the tents towards Kufa, they were in a really bad shape. Everyone was humiliating them. They were taunting them with the death. They had the heads of Imam Hussein and the companions affixed to the spears of different tribal leaders and surrounded all of them. They surrounded the camels or the horses that were going towards Kufa. They did that. It was a political stunt so that nobody is singled out as to be blamed for the death of Imam Hussein. So they involved all the chiefs. And they made the women sit on horses without saddles. And that in their time meant that they were treated like slaves, like servants, when you are seated without a saddle. And in the same time in Kufa, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad had declared that this is the day of Eid. He told the people of Kufa that some Bedouin people had created trouble and his army had won against them, and now they are parading them into the city, so celebrate the victory. So So there was music, and there was dancing, and there was food, and there was jolliness. And here comes Lady Zainab towards Kufa. This place where she came to with her father when he was the governor, when he was the Khalifa, she came with her husband. She came with Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. She was there in that government house that she was heading towards. She knew that house well. She had been there. The people of Kufa knew her because when she lived, when she came, she was very much anticipated. She was sought after because of her knowledge. She's called the Alima غير معلمة. That's what Zayn al-Abidin had, Imam Zayn al-Abidin had called her, which means the knowledgeable scholar who had not been taught. She was that knowledgeable, and she used to hold circles for Quran recitation and tafsir and knowledge, and she would lead those, and those women came to her. So when they saw Lady Zainab coming towards them, they realized who she was, and they realized what had happened. Can you imagine that moment? You realize that the daughter of Imam Ali and Fatima al-Zahra, the grandchild of the Prophet Muhammad, whose name is called 5 times a day in that city, she is being humiliated in this way and dragged towards the government palace, and they start to cry. They were wailing, they were sobbing, and this is what she says to them. She points at them and signs for them to be silent. She's not interested. She is not moved. She says, "So now, O people who deceive, forsake and contrive, it is you who weep. May Allah not stop your tears, and may your chest burn incessantly with the fire of grief and sorrow. Your example is that of a woman who assiduously prepares a strong rope and then untwines it herself, wasting her own hard labor." This is part of a very long or longish sermon that she was giving, or talk she was giving. And what it means is that a woman who prepares a strong rope, at the time, women used to have to work quite a bit to create a rope, because they had to bring fibers together and spin them to make a rope. It takes them a few hours. So she compares the people of Kufa with their tears of regret, with their tears of sorrow and pain, to a woman who creates a rope, and then what does she do? She undoes it. She opens it. She destroys it. It's a wasted effort. She's telling them, it's too late. My dua, that our tears every night in Muharam for the love of Ahlul Bayt are not wasted. Because that would be really sad. And that's where we're going to feel the real regret of what happened, because we know that truth. Imam Hussein says, صبرا على قضائك يا رب لا إله سواك يا غياث المستغيثين ما لي رب سواك ولا معبود غيرك صبرا على حكمك يا غياث من لا غياث له يا دائما لا نفاذ له يا محيي الموتى يا قائما على كل نفس بما كسبت أحكم بيني وبينهم وأنت خير الحاكمين. Patience from your providence, O Lord. Patience. He's calling out for patience. Call out for patience. Whatever you're going through. We all have our own problems. Sometimes when we cry for ourselves. Because we feel sometimes that we need that extra bravery, that extra help, that compassion and love. Patience from your providence, O Lord, there is no God save you. O you, the helper of the seekers. These are last words. O you, the helper of the seekers. I have no other Lord except you. Patience over your rule. He's asking Allah to give him patience over his rule. This is hard times, even for an imam. It's a tough time, and he calls for patience. He's acknowledging his weakness, his need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes we don't do that. We forget to call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are the watcher over each and every soul as to what it earns. Judge between us and them, and you are the best to judge. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, Hajj Sabah, for that powerful talk. Let us pray that Allah grants us success in being able to incorporate these lessons from Sayyida Zainab into our lives. Before we continue, a few announcements, please. We are in need of some volunteers for the gathering for the 10th of Muharam on Saturday during the day. This is the joint Ashura gathering during the day. So if you are male and you are, actually we need brothers and sisters, apologies, brothers and sisters, and you are able to help, please let us know. Other announcements are that we would like to pass on our sincere thanks to the Humanitarian Dialogue Foundation for opening up their doors for 10 nights and enabling us to hold our program. And there are boxes for donations for the center if you would like to make donations. And there is a brother who will be creating a promotional video tomorrow about how Hussein inspires you. If you would like to attend and help him with that matter, that would be most appreciated. Throughout various points in history, the Shia of Ahlul Bayt have been targeted and attacked, often to the point of death, for their